what I always said as a
2016
kid,
has
Steve.
been a roller coaster.
Of
The
emotions.
butter.
Yes. And
Butter-related
butter.
emotions.
How can
there's
I
been
find
olive oil spread,
Dave's
there's
demo
been-
disc to his dumb game, but I can't find my webcam?
Oh,
You haven't played the other day
wow.
yet?
I put it in once and then got distracted. That's
The
why.
one
That's why.
person I was super interested in hearing their opinion because I knew you
What?
designed games in it before.
I'm super interested in it, and that's why I keep it in my desk at all times. So in case I reach over and put it in one day, and I just always forget to, and then it's like at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, time to go to bed. Another day where I didn't play Dave's game.
So it's not your game of the year 2016 then.
Oh, it was my
it's not
2014,
released.
but it got cancelled.
Yeah.
I'll
do
release
you-
it in the same format every single year.
The demo
Do you-
disc.
Do you guys want to still record locally so we can put out a proper podcast as well?
Oh,
Yes, that sounds
well,
wise.
do you want to do the countdown or you just want to start?
Well, I've got to open Audacity first, so. Alright. Has everyone got it?
Yep.
Headset microphone? Oh, that's not right.
Is everyone good? And then Tim isn't.
No, I'm not.
Professional.
Nothing but professional here. Ready? On 3, we'll record.
Hand.
Oh my goodness. Can't find his webcam. Can't even.
All right, ready. Tell me when to hit that button.
On 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we're up to episode 40.
Test.
Test. Up and down.
Testing.
I was hoping to have my Rode SmartLav working, but I need to buy an adapter. Well, I bought an adapter online. I'm just waiting for it to come. So
That's smart
I
lab.
can't believe it only comes with the Rode proper software for devices. That blows.
Well, only if you don't have an iPhone. Are we settled on the 10 categories plus game of the year, or did we add another one, Ben? Did Ben add another one?
I think 10 categories is good. The only thing I'd say is change worst sequel to also include worst remake.
Yep, done.
Most disappointing.
Right. So we've got the categories. We are ready to go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 40 of the Another Dungeon podcast. Joining me this week is Dave
Hello.
and Ben.
Hello.
Now you can.
Bloody upstaged me on the hellos, you might.
Yeah, I had to.
he always upstages. We're actually streaming this episode as well. If you didn't catch it live, you can catch it on our YouTube channel. But in the spirit of picking on the game show, Video Game Awards last episode, we decided to do our own. We thought the categories were pretty crap, so we've come up with our own equally crap categories. And
Most likely.
Best use of the color green in a game goes to.
Oh, that has to go to. Oh, Zelda stopped using the color green. That's a tough one.
Ooh. I've lost my train of thought now.
Wow.
Good
we did
one.
it, Ben. Finally.
We did it.
It's taken
Woo!
4 episodes.
Haven't even started.
Anarchy.
So, only professionals got to vote on these categories. Professionals being us three.
It was the whole royal family of Dorito Kings that got to vote.
Dorito Kings and Mountain Dew Princes?
Manju Statue. Is that a hint at one of your upcoming games that you
maybe.
wanted?
Maybe. It may be in there. So, for categories, we came up with best gameplay, best story, best atmosphere / world, the most fun we had, most interesting character, worst game you never went back to, which for Dave will probably be all of them. Best multiplayer, worst sequel, and best new mechanic / gameplay element. And then we'll do a game of the year as well. So, starting at the beginning, best gameplay. Dave, is it Legion? I'm just going to say, is it Legion for all of them?
Well, it's a fair call, because look, to be honest, I'll preface this by saying that I made up a list. So first of all, I went through the list. It's a brief sidetrack, I promise. I went through the list of all the stuff that's been released this year. And once I filtered out all the remakes, HD remakes, games being re-released on another console, like Heavy Rain coming out on PS4 and stuff, it was a pretty short list. But unfortunately, my games that I wanted to play is as long as my list of games I did play. So I didn't play very many video games this year. But best gameplay for me went to Darkest Dungeon. which I'd played actually for about 2 years prior, but it was only released in February.
So it was on early access for a while, wasn't it? And
And it actually evolved quite a lot. Like there was a lot of
Okay.
community feedback on that game.
Yep.
And the end result was, I mean, it's still essentially the same core game, but I think I was speaking with Ben Sherry on the other podcast about this at around the time of the launch, and by the time it came out, we were both kind of a bit burnt out after playing 2 years of the same stuff, revised and revised and revised. It's like, here you go, you can play the full game now, and you're like,
I think that kind of happened with Starbound, but I think they changed it enough, and I didn't burn myself out enough that it was still good to go back to this year.
yeah.
But
Well, see, I
anyway.
actually went back to it in about September. I went back and played through it all again, and it was just really amazing. I love the way that they did the RPG, the way they presented the game, statistic heavy.
some-
Just
Pretty good mechanics too of fear and
fear and stress. So as
Yeah.
you went through certain situations, your characters became stressed, and there were two things I really liked. One was that stress mechanic. So when you went back to the town, you could actually pay money and let send you guys off to the brothel or the pub or all these sorts of places to reduce their stress, depending on what type of person they were. Or you could just let them die or take new heroes. You actually play that game as sort of this guy at the town that's just recruiting, passing through heroes and sending them off on quests
yeah,
to
okay.
get stuff
So
for
you're-
you. So
You're kind of like the adventurer pimp.
yeah, and it added a really nice mechanic, I thought, and made for great gameplay because you were building up your characters, but at the same time, my video's gone all campfire.
I was gonna say, it kind of looks like you're gonna get stabbed soon. Dave's light just went out for the audio. only
Yeah,
listeners.
I just
And,
assumed that was part of the effect of Duck's Dungeon, and he's starting to build stress
no, that-
for us.
This is all part of the professional podcast setup we have going here in our
Yep.
3
All good podcasts
house
are done in
studios.
garages.
If you say so. Ben, what about you? Best gameplay. I've heard enough from Dave.
This one was a really tough one to award because honestly, I don't think I played a lot of very good gameplay this year. 2015 was very fresh, but this year, there were so many remakes and remasters of games that I think were better than like games that came out this year. It was hard to pick something new. So, in the end, after much decision, I decided on Pokemon Sun and Moon had the best gameplay because it didn't change the gameplay very much. The fact is, the Pokemon mechanic is really solid, and this game is the same. They just made some of the systems easier so people don't have to grind as much.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that.
Didn't have to grind as much and didn't have to remember as much. Like, all the counters
Yeah.
are now shown, I think. It
Yeah.
shows if it's going to be effective or not very, which is cool.
It was really
But
good
only
for
once
like my
you've-
girlfriend
only
who was a
once you've fought
newcomer.
them, right?
Yeah, you've got to experiment first. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was very
That's
fair. The only thing that I really didn't want to give it to Pokemon Sun and Moon because the online features are stripped back from the previous games, so
Yep.
online interaction is not as good gameplay, and there's no post game. But there hasn't really been post game for the last 2 Pokemon titles, so
Right. Well,
I still think the game holds up well enough on its own, though.
Fair enough. I've never reached post game, so that never bothered me. For me, the best gameplay was actually a bit of a surprise to myself, I guess. Shadow Warrior 2. We
wow.
got given
Oh,
we got given a review copy. I wasn't too sure how it'd go going into the game. I'd never really played I played the first one for a little bit, but the actual, not so much the gunplay, but the sword fighting and dodging mechanics and everything's just put together really well. Put together so well that I looked forward to every encounter, and I don't think any other game has really done that for me this year. I mean, Dark Souls is good, but it's still known, and I mean,
but you don't look forward to those encounters. You're terrified of them.
not always. Like, it's still fun, but yeah, Shadow Warrior 2 just had such a frantic, fast-paced combat style that really kept me coming back, and I had to meet review deadlines. Otherwise, I did finish the game, but I skipped a few of the side missions that I wished I'd gone to. But yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. If you haven't played it, I would recommend it. The story is not great, but the gameplay is fantastic. Next in our categories, we have Best Story. Ben.
I had definitely had to give this one to Uncharted 4: Thief's End.
Ooh,
no other game had as mature a story that fleshed out the world so visually, that had such developed characters that were very realistic, but still had the high fantasy of finding an ancient pirate city. It told an emotional tale of two brothers. It was a bit predictable, and I wouldn't say as groundbreaking as Last of Us, but Naughty Dog know what they're doing when it comes to visual storytelling, and that was definitely the thing I enjoyed the most, because it felt like a 10-hour movie.
Well, I'm going to jump in before Dave, because I had Uncharted 4 as well. Looking through the list of games that I played this year, no stories really jumped out as being fantastic, but
Yeah.
the Uncharted stories are pretty decent. They do a good job of building mystery. I jumped in at 2, which I think ended in a bit of supernatural as well as,
The
standard
first
stuff.
3 have an element of supernatural. This fourth one, they went pretty grounded.
Yeah, but nevertheless, it was still a pretty good story. So, Dave, Legion.
Okay, I didn't play Uncharted 4. It's on my list of things I wanted to play, but to be
worth
honest,
it.
I was a bit put off by number 3, so I wasn't in a huge rush to play that one. But for me, it was Firewatch.
Oh,
And this
You
was a
dirty
tough one
hipster.
between... Hey?
You dirty hipster.
No, I loved uncovering the story, and I love when they turn stuff on its head. Like, your character in it isn't a particularly likable character. And even if you're making, with all the decisions you make throughout the game and the way it unfolds at the end, it was just a very interesting way of telling a story. The story wasn't particularly deep or massive, but all the subtext and the stuff that goes on and the way it unfolds, it was really cleverly told, and it evoked an emotion in me that I don't normally get from stories.
Oh, it's good.
So that's why it won story for me. It was a tough choice between story and atmosphere, actually. I know I can pick the same for both, but anyway.
Yeah, look, we didn't set any rules about picking the same games. Technically, Dave could have picked Legion for everything if he really wanted to. But I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that now.
And Legion.
It's too late. So that leads us on to Best Atmosphere. I had Best Game World. Game World Atmosphere.
Atmosphere.
The
It all
world
comes
that you
together.
liked visiting. So I'll go first. I picked Watch Dogs 2.
Really?
Not only because it's what I've been playing recently, but because the world feels put together
the
pretty
memes?
well.
Do you like seeing memes everywhere?
I just can't get enough of Maymays.
Hot, fresh
Um,
memes.
Freshest, dankest Maymays.
Dankest, zestiest.
The world reacts well to you, and like I said on the other podcast before, it gives you enough tools to mess around with the world, and people react. It's not perfect, it's not glitch free, it doesn't have to be though. I think I haven't been playing it every day. I'm probably playing it on the weekends the most at the moment, but I still look forward to going back. And for a game to do that to me, yeah, it's got to have something decent there. So
That's
Dave.
surprising that Ubisoft could turn that around.
yeah, look, I wasn't as big a hater on 1 as everyone else. I thought it was a decent enough game. But yeah, 2 is definitely a lot better.
Still haven't played 1.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, just go to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I bought one now for $8 at eBay. But it's interesting you picked that, because after hearing you talk about Watch Dogs the other day and the discussion we were having earlier today about what makes for a game's world or atmosphere, and you were very much focused on the feeling that you got of being part of the world by interacting with NPCs and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, so my pick is Legion, followed very closely by Final Fantasy 15. which I haven't played a whole heap of, which is why I didn't leave it in there.
Probably
'cause I
why
don't
you
think-
picked it.
Well, no, for world building. Like, anyway, so Legion, one of the things I love about Legion, they've designed the world well so that you can get around easily. They've put in a beautiful story. Well, it's not a beautiful story, but it's an engaging story. And one of the real draw cards with WoW for me is that lore and the story and everything that goes on if you pay attention to the quests and the raids and the dungeons and all that sort of stuff. They just put it all together really, really well. And running around, I actually found myself pausing to look at the scenery, which I don't often do in games. I do it in Guild Wars 2 all the time because most of that game's beautiful. But World of Warcraft, a lot of it is just massive open bits of
Pillared polygons.
snow.
So you
grass,
can actually
desert.
tell the different scenes from each other in Legion. They've added graphics to WoW, have they?
The different areas, it's like every single piece has been individually crafted.
That's cool.
It's really beautiful running through all the different areas. And when you get to so it's well laid out. You can go to any sort of area which adds to it as well. In the previous expansions, you had to start at sort of one end and move your way from area to area as you leveled up.
Yeah.
In this one, when you go to an area, the monsters are leveled to whatever level you're at. So you can go to any area at the start and everything's sort of set up from a hub. So it doesn't take very long to get to anywhere either.
Yeah.
Which means that you can explore more of it faster. And once you reach the level cap, you open up a whole new city that's just, it's amazing. I just got there and I was looking around thinking, wow, this is just a beautiful, beautiful game. You know, and walking around to check out the scenery, I thought that's a pretty good reason to make me pick it for best world. What about you, Ben?
I was captivated by the beautiful artistry of Paper Mario Color Splash. Paper Mario franchise I've always really loved, but this game really went all out on the paper visuals. Everything in the game is made from like paper craft. There's some beautiful terrain and locations you go to. You go in this beautiful sunset train. You go to a haunted mansion and throw a tea party for ghosts. You go to this beautiful poison lake.
Isn't that a bit hazardous if everyone's made out of paper?
Well, yeah, that's kind of the thing. They really played into the paper effect. So one of the levels, there's a giant realistic fan, one of the few objects that's not made out of paper, and it's blowing the whole level around. And you see enemies like Koopas fly past as they're being blown away, and all the paper background is flapping in the wind. And they do a lot of really fun stuff. There are Shy Guys, and if they fall in the water, they'll get all soggy, and their like color will be running, and they'll look creepy. It just had a really beautiful world, and whilst I had issues with the level design being quite linear for a lot of levels, they were beautiful to explore, and I just really had a lot of fun walking around there. You got to color stuff in as you found the color stars. So at one point, this giant desert that you think is a desert, when you color it in, is actually a giant hole. So then everything on top of it falls down into the hole, and it just does fun stuff with the world like that.
Maybe
I'm excited. I've been hinting very, very loudly to my kids that that's what Daddy
To
wants
get
for
that game?
Christmas. No, not for them. They're not
For you.
touching my damn. Yeah.
Oh, wait,
All my-
they put
in
a
fact, my
Pop-Tart in
Nintendo
the
games are the
weed, didn't they?
The Nintendo games are the only ones in the house that we have 2 copies of each. One for them and one
Just
for
in
me.
case.
It's
Yeah.
the only one.
fair enough.
Yes.
I've got 2 copies of a few things for dumber reasons than having kids.
There's only one of you for starters.
Yeah, exactly. So the next category is the most fun you had in a game. I guess it can be measured in different ways, but
Yeah, this one's very subjective.
look, a lot of them
All
are subjective. I picked Stardew Valley for mine.
God,
Yeah, I spent
another Clash. That's what I picked too.
I spent months after launch playing that, probably nearly every day, if not every day. I'm a fan of the Harvest Moon series and the Rune Factory series, and Stardew does such a good job of, I guess, bringing what people love about those games and making it their own a bit. And it's something that they've continued to develop. I haven't gone back since the last few updates where they've added new starting areas and a few new different options. But I'm very much looking forward to jumping back into it when they eventually have multiplayer.
I'm holding out for multiplayer. I haven't really got far into it yet because of multiplayer.
Yeah, it's just a fantastic farming sim game. I don't get into the relationship with the townspeople side of things. Apparently, I play the game wrong. But there's more than enough fun to be had doing all the other stuff. So, Dave, I guess we know
that's
what yours
what makes it. Yeah, well, that's what makes it fun though. Like, I remember when I was playing, I was working on, building up my relationship with people and building up my farm and collecting this, that, and the other. And in the same amount of time that had passed, you were already like you dug way deep in the mine because you were doing a lot of mining.
Yeah, because that's what I hit.
And then it was winter, and you realise that you're in a bit of trouble with your crops because it's a bit harder to do all that stuff in winter. But so you've got the town people, you've got gathering stuff, you've got sword fighting, you've got digging through the mine, you've got unlocking all the extra bits. There's that community centre which gives you little challenges. Yeah. It's got all the right stuff and the perfect level of accessibility where you can sort of go for the OCD and you never get to that point. Like with World of Warcraft, there's you look through the achievements, go I can do that. I'm never ever gonna do that unless I'm absolutely hardcore. I never have that with Stardew. Everything feels like it's attainable.
Everything's attainable if you wait.
It was, yeah, but it was the same thing. I fired it up, I enjoyed it a bit. I enjoyed it a bit more. Before long, that was about all I was playing.
Yeah.
And for about 3 or 4 months, I just had an absolute blast with that game.
Ben, did you pick Stardew Valley as well?
Not yet, because like I said, I'm holding up for the multiplayer. I feel like I need to have someone entertain me while I pick corn. So instead, I decided that after all, I had the most fun this year with Kirby Planet Robobot.
Robobot.
Robo. There's an extra bow in this.
Robobot.
Robobot. Yeah.
Is the bow in Kirby? Is it Kirby?
Kirby. Yeah. This is a game I powered through quite quickly and haven't really gone back too much. But if you've played this one or the predecessor, the two 3DS Kirby games, they're just some of the best Kirby games in the series. They're just a solid old school platformer. It's challenging enough without ever getting too challenging. It's really fun because you get a wide range of fun power-ups you can transform into. And this one had a cool robot mech suit that you could slightly customize and use cool abilities in different ways. And it was just pleasant, fun, old school platforming, beautiful atmosphere, cool bosses.
Does the mech suit suck people up too?
Yeah, it copies abilities, and then it turns into a different kind of robot depending on what ability it copies. So like cool. One of them's like a boombox, and it can like shoot music and do different things. Just pretty neat. And it's got like buzzsaw arms and
kill people with the power of music.
Yeah, Kirby's always quirky, guilty pleasure game, and so Kirby Planet Robobot was really fun.
What were the two predecessors you mentioned?
So there's been two Kirby 3DS games, Kirby Planet Robobot and Kirby Triple Deluxe.
Okay.
Both those are kind of the same engine, the same game. The one before that, would that be the Mass Attack?
Or I think so. Where you had where you were broken into little Kirby's and you were dragging around on the touchpad. Yeah, that was the last Kirby I played. Yeah. I'm a bit behind on Kirby as well.
Yeah, I recommend the 3DS ones. They're just very, very simple mechanics, but very effective mechanics.
I would have to dig out my 3DS.
Thought you would have done that for Monster Hunter by now.
Weren't you just playing Pokemon last week?
I haven't played Pokemon. That's Jackie.
Ah.
I don't play Monster Hunter on mobile. I love the game, but I just don't like playing it on 3DS. So I'm waiting for them to. I'm waiting for the Switch.
Switch?
They will.
Yeah, I really hope they do because I want to get back into it.
They will.
Next category: how is the most interesting character? Who hasn't started for a while? Dave?
All right. For me, it was Firewatch again.
Boring. Ben?
So, Henry... the relationship between Henry and Delilah, for the exact same reason I said it was the best story.
So you're Henry, I'm guessing?
You're Henry, and Delilah is this person that you only ever speak to over your two-way radio as the events of the story unfold. So Henry's in the situation, basically his wife's got a terminal illness, and she's degrading. So she's gone back to her family in Australia, and he's sort of gone to get away from it all and gone out to take a Firewatch station.
So he's an
So rather
employee. Yeah.
Hey,
He actually works at the station. He's
yeah,
not a
yeah. So he's
hiker or
gone on.
whatever.
Basically, they just go there and you've got a little cabin and you hike around, making sure everyone's safe and keep an eye out for fire, that sort of stuff over the hot periods of time. But the whole game is basically about you building up as events unfold. Because obviously, if all you were doing were looking out over forest, it'd be a pretty boring game. But as events unfold, your relationship with Delilah grows. And the way she acts towards you changes as you progress through the story. Won't spoil the ending, but yeah, I thought they were extremely interesting and different characters. Different to the norm.
Differenter to each other. Ben, what about you?
I'm gonna give it to a little fellow that I've become very good friends with in the small time
Yanni!
I've owned this game. Not Yanni.
Oh.
Not that lifeless discount sack boy. I'm giving it to Treeker, the goofy griffin dog from Last Guardian. What makes Treeker so interesting is his AI. They really went out of their way to make this AI very believable and act like a pet and an animal who you can only communicate with in part. You can give him basic orders only once you've bonded enough with him as a friend, and he won't always respond to them. He's very much distracted by the environment, by other objects that take priority, and sometimes just his own personality and behavior. He'll run off and look at something, or he'll just behave in very animal ways. So it creates an interesting dynamic with the player, because often he's your only source of platforming, and you're climbing up him to get to a location, but you kind of have to wrestle with him to get somewhere, which can be frustrating, and I would understand if a lot of players got frustrated with that. But considering that's the direct intention of the game design, to be a kind of a frustrating animal, and it behaves so well like that, I think it's really ingenious. And when you do achieve a task with him, it feels even more rewarding, because you really have to work with him and try and read his visual cues and animations and take care of him. When a spear gets thrown in him, you have to pull out the spear and rub him and calm him down. And it's a really neat mechanic. I really enjoyed
that
how
is how you
AI is
do
getting
it.
advanced. Yeah, definitely. You just pull the spear right out, you yank it out. To be fair, you're a 10-year-old boy, so I don't expect him to know a lot about maintaining a griffin.
So, is it clever programming or bad AI?
Oh, it's definitely very good AI.
You sure it's
stuff like,
intentional?
yeah, it's stuff like when you pick up a barrel of his food supply, this mysterious glowing liquid, he'll track you. Like, his eyes change and he'll track you with the food. And if you hold the food too long, he'll just peck straight at you and knock you down and try and get to the food. Or you can get his attention and you can throw the food and he'll like snap the food out of the air with his beak, and he can like
That is
catch you if you
amazing.
fall from a ledge, and it's just really neat. It really feels like I'm really training this giant goofy griffin.
Right. Well, that's a more positive spin than what I've heard from other people that have played the game. So I was looking at my list of games that I've played this year, and I've been staring at it for a long time, and to be honest, I can't actually say there was a most interesting character for me this year.
Is that because you're not an interesting character?
Probably.
Ooh.
I played a lot of games, and I can remember the main protagonists or enemies or whatever from a lot of them, but none of them stand out as being really characters that I cared or got invested in. So my most interesting character this year is me. I am the most interesting video game character this year.
Did you at least play a game where you got to customize an avatar and you can make that claim?
Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley.
Okay, there you go.
And
Yeah.
Dark Souls 3,
Yeah. All of them.
World of Warcraft.
I did play that this year, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, vanilla content from like
Yeah.
12 years ago.
What about
Billion
Real
years.
Girl from Guild Wars 2?
Guild Wars 2 is
Real
an old
Grill.
game too.
Yeah, that's an old
Real
game too.
Girl.
Real Grill.
Real Grill, get it right. So next up we have the worst game. This was Ben's idea, just so you know. Now worst is a subjective term as well.
Nah. It's sometimes
All
objective.
of them are subjective. You can't say subjective
No,
before
no.
each one. It's
Only-
like a,
When it comes to worst game, there was one objective choice of this year.
Well, mine's not the obvious one because I have it for another category.
Oh.
So my worst game, I had it split and then we made another category. So
We have lost objective.
I'm gonna say the worst game overall was Far Cry Primal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just
oh,
boring.
so you didn't read his review then, Ben. I see how it is.
I only read your reviews, Dave.
I don't even know if I did. I didn't do a review because I haven't finished the game. It was
Or
that-
maybe you just talked about it on the podcast then.
I probably have. It was that uninteresting. The character you play as is uninteresting. Your tribe are a bunch of pansies, and you're trying to help them be the strongest tribe ever. For some reason, I got like
I can't see why they didn't get you to write the blurb on the back of the box, Tim.
I got one of, if not the most powerful animal, like right at the start of the game. I don't know if
Oh,
it was
wow.
deliberate or accident, but I've been riding a saber tooth for ages. And it's just, it's kind of like a bad port of Far Cry 4. And they've even been accused of reusing assets. Apparently the map is very, very similar, just inverted or something like that. But
Oh wow! So it's not
Even-
just like, hang on, those bushes you used them in a different jungle. It's
no,
like they've,
it's like the actual map
they've
structure.
just straight done it. Oh wow!
Yeah. So
So, would you put that down to it being a rushed release to hit that kind of yearly annual cycle?
I think it was rushed. They didn't have. So Far Cry 3 and 4 had really good antagonists. Really memorable characters, done really well. Always borderlining on the. You know, who's. I know 3 was the bros. It was a little bit less than 3, but 4, you know, the bordering. Is he really that bad a guy? The resistance seemed to be pretty bad as well. 4 was just. All these tribes are attacking us because we're weak.
No, you mean Primal.
Oh,
was
sorry,
like that.
Primal. Yeah.
4 was the you're not sure whether he's a good or bad guy.
Yeah,
I finished
yeah.
4
So-
in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I've seen that. You can. Spoilers for anyone that hasn't played it. Yeah, it might have been because it was
Spoiler.
rushed. I'm
Was it the same team that did the other two?
not sure. Other 4.
Because I know they did that with. I've forgotten. There's a few other game series where they do that. They'll have. Call of Duty is one. Remember they used to have
Yeah, well,
Infinity
they've got-
Ward and
They've got 3: Sledgehammer, Infinity, and Treyarch.
that's it.
Sledgehammer.
And yet they'd alternate them so that they can meet that deadline. So maybe it's
Yeah.
the third team for Ubi that just.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Ubi haven't been making particularly good or stable titles for a while, so
They've been making shit choices actually.
Yeah.
Like they dumped Rayman when it was at its peak, which is
Why?
just like whether you like Rayman or not, it was making them a lot of cash. Like,
Yeah.
why don't you continue? Anyway, different
and
topic.
despite what people think, I actually do like Rayman, just not the platformer. I used to play like 2.
Yeah,
all the
Rayman and
ones.
Rayman 2 and
Yeah.
yeah, 3D adventure ones. Yeah,
Anyway, Ben, what's your worst game?
My worst game
I'm laughing.
Does it
should have been No Man's Sky, but I never bought that. So it has to go to Final Fantasy 15, which
Oh,
is
wow.
an abomination, an
hang on a
unfinished,
sec now.
aborted wreck.
Wait.
Yeah.
You're not
Hang
gonna
on, Dave
spoil
wants to
anything,
take
right?
his
because
headphones
I
out.
actually really like the Final Fantasy series, and I don't want to have story or anything spoiled.
I won't spoil
Dave, take
any
your headphones
story.
out, and I'll do the
No, I
thumbs
won't.
up when he's done.
I won't spoil any
Let's see.
story, but the reality of Final Fantasy 15 is halfway through development, it was a huge train wreck, completely unsalvageable. The director who was working on it messed it up, and they got rid of him. And they got a new director on board. He salvaged as much as he could. He took those little pieces of poop and he polished them up and made them look like diamonds, but secretly there was still poop on the inside. And that's what this game is. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors. They did a lot of fan feedback and asked fans what features they'd like to put in the game, and then they shoved those features in the game where I don't always think they belonged. So the first half of this game, it's an okay open world. It kind of feels like an open world from maybe 2-3 years ago. I think
Say older than
this
that. It's
year-
like early PS2, right?
Yeah. These days, open worlds are pretty epic and engaging. After playing The Witcher 3, the bar for open world interaction and what you can do in an open world was really raised for me. So the Final Fantasy 15 world felt like Square trying to get their heads around why Western gamers like open world. Some things they did really well, and I'll mention that for one of my other categories. But in the second half of the game, they switched to focus on story. The story is awful. It's not arranged. It overlaps a lot of Final Fantasy's conventions and doesn't improve on them. It's a mess. It's out of order, and it makes no sense. And the second half is extremely disappointing. They ditched the open world. You don't return there. And ultimately,
give you
it was
a
a very
warning?
disappointing game. Very, very loose warning.
Yeah.
They
I
give you
thought
like
you could
a half
go
warning.
back, but it like took you back in time or some crap, right?
Yeah, yeah. But my problem with that,
Yeah.
I really like games where there's a lack of metaphor. So like menus are metaphors, and when you use a system through a menu, that's a metaphor for something that should be occurring in the game. I like when there's justification for mechanics in games. That system is a menu that you click on that, and it takes you back to an earlier part of the game, and your save data convert, and that doesn't feel fun. They could have easily given some cop-out thing like, oh, you can always summon a portal, and when you walk through a portal, you go back to this. But they don't. It's very
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
bolted together. And a lot of people love this game because a lot of people are really holding on, believing that this is Square returning, and they're close. And maybe if they use their Unreal 4 engine, maybe they can get things right, because this was still their custom one, which I think couldn't fully realize their vision. But
I've heard it,
I don't know.
I've heard it compared to Phantom Pain in the first half, second half sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're hitting a problem in the industry where obviously the development of games is very expensive, especially if you want to go for the realistic appearance in games. You need to put a lot of energy into motion capture, graphics, and animation, and that does two things. That makes it super expensive to realize a game as in-depth as the old RPGs we used to have, and that also makes it easier to spot bugs and flaws when they happen, or janky animations or lower res textures. And I
actually think it also affects the depth as well, like what you just touched on there, because I've noticed that with so they've added in that mechanic with the banter back and forth between you and the other guys. And it's good at first, but it very quickly gets repetitive, which then breaks,
That's the problem
broke
with-
the experience for what it was supposed to be in the first
Yeah.
place. I'm like, oh, I've heard this soundbite 20 times. Can you stop saying that?
And that's
Yeah,
that's a systematic problem of open world. Like, arguably one of my favorite open world games, Skyrim. You hear the same lines so many times.
Oh, it's not worse than Oblivion. With like 5 voice actors doing everybody.
Yeah, at least they hired another 2 voice actors, but it's still, very few sound bites. And you, it can become a problem, or I guess it can enhance other issues in games. If you're already having an issue with something and then it just gets compounded by, I guess, I've heard this line a billion times, and the gameplay is not fun, it's frustrating me, or something like that. Where I think that's, for me at least, that's why it wasn't really an issue in Skyrim, because the game is great, and I didn't care that I have guards making fun of me because I lost my sweet roll all the time.
Well, you have a lot of freedom in Skyrim, but there are points where Final Fantasy 15 strips you of control against your will.
Right.
And because it's marketed as an open world and you play open world segments, you want that control, but it doesn't always want to hand over the control. And I think Square needs to sit down and decide, do we want to be a traditional style JRPG where we have a very controlled narrative, or do we want to let the player have input into the story? Because I don't think you can have both. I think you have to give up one if you want to go for the open world.
Is pushing your car when it runs out of fuel fun?
Well, I never ran out of fuel because
I did. Apparently, you can call the
I'm a
tow
good
truck
driver.
and pay. So you can pay Gil to get it back. Well, that was one of. Look, Final Fantasy 15 isn't my worst game. I am enjoying it. I've played about 10, 15 hours so far, but it's those little mechanics that are a novelty but get in the way of gameplay. Having to drive to locations, not being able to easily see where fuel stops are on the map. When you go in a chocobo race, after it finishes, there's no option to restart the race. After it finishes, you have to wait for the dialogue, the loading screen, go back, go through the same start dialogue, make a choice. You go to stop at a hotel, you've got to... Like, every action, even menu actions, just take so long. And I just feel... the one thing I've felt the whole time I've been playing it, I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the world. I'm enjoying the story, etc., etc. But all the time I'm playing it, I'm thinking, you guys are Square Enix. Camera controls for 3D games were perfected a long time ago. There's no excuse for shitty camera controls in an action game. Open world has been perfected since, what's the first one? Probably Assassin's Creed 2-ish sort of era, yeah? But people, the point is,
we're not going to get in this discussion.
People have got a set expected standard, and they've already experimented with all this crap and found out what works and what doesn't. Square Enix feel like they're all the way back at that early stage. But maybe it's a Japanese thing, because another game I played this year was Knights of Azure, which felt exactly the same. The out-of-game elements were very Japanese, but they just didn't... They felt clunky. That's what I feel with 15, anyway.
Back to Dave's worst game. We talked about Final Fantasy for
Japanese games. Actually, it's a remake, so I'm not sure I can really put this in.
You can say remakes.
All right. It was a game that Greg got me to review for the site. Sorry, Greg. It's called Death Smiles. So it's a bullet cell game.
Yeah.
And they revamped it up with modern 3D graphics and all this sort of bullshit. And the modern 3D graphics looked like they were from the mid-90s. Shit, Warcraft 1 had better 3D graphics than this one did. And it had lots of features. You could play all the different arcade modes. And, you could play the new format or you could play the original graphics and stuff. But it was just a shit game. It was a shit port. It had shit menus.
Is it because you're not a fan of Bullet Hell, though? Or even
No, but
aside?
I am a fan of Bullet Hell to a certain extent. I haven't played many side-scroller Bullet Hells, which is what that one was. So I am a fan. I'm not as big a fan of it as Greg is, and I think he's a fan of that particular type.
I didn't know there was different types, to be honest.
Was it one of the waifu bullet hells where you unlock?
Yeah, every single one is
anime space princesses. If you dodge,
yeah, everything was
Krieger's
wife. Yeah, so it looked alright, but no, it didn't look alright. It looked shit. It could have been a lot better, but they just. I don't know. It just missed a lot. And I thought for a port, it felt like Cave just cashing in on an old classic for people who are fans of it and giving them a half-assed port that they already had 20 times before.
That's the danger with remasters.
I'm gonna add a new category, and that's the worst industry practices. And I'm gonna give a shout out to crappy remakes and cash grabs, because that has been such a symptom of this year. Really, it's just been.
Do you know how many Final Fantasies came out this year? Final Fantasy 9 on iPhone, Final Fantasy 8 on PC,
and it's like
$20
for the iPhone port.
Yeah.
But it's the same bloody game. It's not.
Yeah. Anyways, that's why we're gonna move on, because Final Fantasy makes everyone angry. The game you never went back to.
Oh, I've got a good one.
Hang on, what was your worst game?
I said it. Far Cry Primal. We spent ages talking about it. That was literally like 10 minutes ago.
We started this topic, I know.
It's a very prehistoric topic to brought back up.
I'm going to get this... Oh, Ben, that was bad. You've made me sad.
Better than his Red Dead Redemption joke.
I'm going to get this out of the way. It had to be in here for something. No Man's Sky is the game I never went back to. Played it 2 nights after work straight, so I don't know, I've played it for about 10 or 12 hours. Long enough to realise that it's all about the grind for the resources. Then I got bored and stopped. I thought I would go back for the Foundation update, but I still haven't fired it up, so that wins my award for game I never went back to.
Damn it, I missed it. I was sticking around with the garage lights.
Well, that's not my fault.
I have to listen
Can't
back.
talk about it again. We're never going to go back to that title.
It's World of Warcraft, Dave.
What's yours, Ben?
Well, I was pretty excited for Monster Hunter Generations because I loved the last Monster Hunter Ultimate 4. And this brought back some old monsters, some cool new stylish mechanics. My friend and his brother were all pumped up, ready to play. We played one night, and then his brother and him kind of charged ahead and left me behind. I didn't really have anyone to play with. So I literally haven't gone back to it except for that night.
That's right. That's right up there with people who piss off in the middle of the fight to go collect mushrooms while you're all fighting.
And yeah, I think I like the Monster Hunter series, but with each title that comes out, I find it slightly less engaging. And I think if the franchise is going to continue, rather than invent a bajillion spin-offs and become the new Square Enix, they need to, I don't know, tighten up the game, make it less complicated, make the UI less nuts, be less Japanese, which I hate saying, but so many Japanese franchises that I love, like, they need to adapt or die. Like, that's just where games are at these days. Western industry has jumped warp years ahead of where Japanese gaming is, because Japan is still focused on the mobile, like, smartphone market, and a lot of franchises have shifted there or have just gone bankrupt. So I don't know, I always root for Japanese games. I like Monster Hunter, but I had no real intention to go back to Generations, unfortunately.
Well, that sucks.
Hmm.
Dave?
I'm hoping
now
the
I
Switch
feel bad
one.
because I picked a Japanese-ish game as well, or Japanese origins.
What's with
Yeah.
you
So-
and putting Japanese games in your worst of categories?
We don't want to. It just happens. They just
Are
don't
you-
make good games anymore.
Dave is some sort of gaming racist. You heard it here first.
But you got, like, Japanese it's one of those things though that people seem to either love Japanese. Anyway, it's a completely
game,
different
Dave?
topic. So my game is Pokemon Go. So I jumped on that when it first came out. What?
No, I like that choice. It's fair.
Yeah. So I jumped on it and I played it for about a month, and I saw all the Ingress points, some of them that I'd actually registered, showing up in Pokemon Go. And I just got bored with it really quick. And then all the hype took over, and that sort of got me offside about it as well. And then I took it off my phone because I just couldn't be bothered going back to it. And then there was all the crap about, having to travel to places to find rare Pokemon, and I just never ended up getting back into it. And it's not because it's a bad game. It was a fun game. I enjoyed it, and I do quite a bit of walking, so I was perfectly happy to walk around with my phone. I could get that stupid vibrating pocket thing now to tell me when I need to look at my mobile phone, etc., etc. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't go back to it, but I just never have.
Well, I found it became a chore. Like, I really liked exploring my area. Once I had explored my area that I would frequent and was easy to get to, there wasn't much left to do. And so then it just became about managing the app. And I found it drained
gotta
too
catch
much
'em
battery too quickly. I gave it my best
Did you have
shot.
gyms? Did you have gyms around you?
Yeah, and I took control of the gym for a while, but it just became... The gym rewards weren't high enough for me to continue to care.
See,
and
that's one of the things that I found strange with the Pokemon one was, so in Ingress, you actually worked as a team to capture points, whereas in Pokemon Go, I always felt like you're on your own. You go to a gym and you do battles. But
even though you're in the
it's
teams,
still
it's
that-
just an award for you. Yeah.
the team isn't really anything. You can't team up with 5 other people and go and have a battle. Like in Ingress, there were points where we would actually meet up and you'd see other people and you go, you're on that team. Oh yeah, well we're battling for this point. Da 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 da.
In the first few months, I had a few battles over turf. My girlfriend and I and some friends, we would go to parks and watch all the teens walk around. And when a group moved away, we
Smash
would
their
charge in there
phones.
and steal their phones and beat them up and kick them. No, but then we'd capture the gym, and that was fun. But I just don't think the gym system was well implemented. It was really buggy for the first month. It's a slog to knock someone off the gym. You have to re-battle again and again. And the real-time battle system, I think, is their biggest muck-up. They really should have just copied Pokemon's normal turn-based mechanics, maybe sped it up a little bit, reduce the move pool, make it less complicated. But having
I think
to
what
tap
they
your
should have
phone
had-
over and over sucks.
They should have had copies of Pokken Tournament at all of the gyms, so you could do
Oh, that
real
would have been the
battle.
best. I really wanted to put Pokken Tournament somewhere in this list, but it's just never quite good enough. But that's a really fun game that came
Ben,
out this
what's
year.
what's the best fighting game you played this year?
Best fighting game I played this year has to go to Street Fighter Pokken
Wow.
Tournament, because you could beat the crap out of a Charizard as a Pikachu wearing spandex, and it was the best.
On that note, best multiplayer game of the year, Dave.
None.
Legion. All right, move on, Ben.
Well, I suppose it is multiplayer. Legion. It's the only one I've played.
I didn't specify co-op or PvP,
Easy.
so anything that you
No,
play
but
with
whenever
another
someone
person.
says multiplayer, I don't think of. I don't know. I know it is, but I don't view MMOs in the same sort of. Anyway,
What about
I haven't played
Overwatch?
enough.
They're not
I haven't played
multiplayer, they're
enough.
massively
The only
multiplayer.
reason, the only reason I pick Legion is because that's the only one I've played. So next,
Ben,
I didn't want to be a pleb, but I had to pick Overwatch because, or I thought about giving it to the Division.
Shit.
I thought really
Sorry.
hard. There's a
go Overwatch.
yeah,
you did
You
play
like
Overwatch, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's spoiler for later,
Um,
but it's got another category. God damn it! I
I-
forgot.
You idiot.
Professional. That's why I got kicked off this podcast. Go on.
I wanted to give it to the Division because I really like its multiplayer systems. Except that no one plays the Division, so I can't give it best multiplayer.
Do you mean Dark Zone or co-op sections?
Just everything. Like I only really had. I mean, you play it, but I never really played with you. I just played with one friend.
Well,
And it was
see-
okay, but I think Overwatch is a better multiplayer experience. For the 1 month where all my friends were super into it and we nearly entered a tournament, we got as far as registering for the tournament, and then we were all busy the next month and we didn't participate in the tournament. For that time, we were really into it. We were learning all the characters. We were really enjoying it, and it built a really good. When you had you needed 6 people, you needed a full team to get the most out of it. But when you had a full team, it was so much fun just chatting and communicating. I like arena shooters are back and borrowing some elements of MOBAs without the horrible elements of MOBAs, and I like this over the Call of Duty style multiplayer. I like
It's not
being
really
able to move
MOBA
around
though.
No, but it's MOBA in the sense of team and you push to objectives. I guess it's
Well,
more.
then, Team Fortress 2 is a MOBA if you go by that standard. It's just a class-based shooter.
Yeah, it's a class-based shooter. I like arena shooters being able to move around and use interesting abilities that aren't necessary. It's not about the kill to death ratio. It's about countering other characters and stuff. I think that's a lot more fun and fair.
Yeah, look, that's what a lot of people have said is you don't have to be good at shooters to get enjoyment out of Overwatch.
Yeah.
But
You do have to if you don't want to end up a salty bastard that's mad at the world.
Well, if that's your goal in life, go for it. My best multiplayer game is probably no surprise. It's playing in the background if you're watching the stream. It's Battlefield 1. It's well refined. I think the maps are laid out quite good. There's not enough maps. There's definitely a cut down in the weapon selection over Battlefield 4. Each class seems to have about 4 weapons with 3 variants on those weapons. And there's a long slog between unlocking everything. So you go from class rank 0 to 3, you've unlocked 90% of everything, and then you've got to get to level 10 before you unlock the last gun for your class, which is a bit weird, but they've gone back to more... the classes haven't changed that much. I think there's been a little bit more balancing between... Assault used to be the healer, but now there's a specific medic class. There's not really an engineer anymore. They've played with the classes a little bit, but it's just a good, fun game. I don't think they could they could screw it up. They did with Hardline, so I'm not going to say that the Battlefield series will head backwards, but yeah.
Oh, but you and Andy loved Hardline.
It was okay.
That being crap was the only thing you two have ever agreed on.
Probably. Yeah, it's the game that I find myself going back to whenever I want to play an online shooter. Worst sequel / remake. Because someone didn't like just sequel. This is a category I guess I put in for a very specific reason. I just wanted to say that I hated Dead Rising 4. It is...
That makes me so sad.
So, Ben used
earned.
the word abortion before, and I think that is what Dead Rising 4 is. It is the easiest, stripped down version of Dead Rising there's ever been. They focused on the one thing that's never been a cornerstone of the series, and that's the story.
That's Frank.
They've taken away any sense of urgency with taking away the time limits. They've given you 3 separate inventories, so you don't really have to manage what you're carrying that much. It's just... I guess I was really enjoying it for the first few hours. And then I realised there's not much outside of the main missions. So you'll run around and there'll be encounters where you can save survivors.
We have lost objective Duff.
Or take out an enemy outpost or whatever. But they seem to be in the same spots. And they're not interesting. You only come across the encounter when you come within proximity. You know, there's no calls over the radio anymore saying this survivor's in trouble and, you know, you've got to rush to get them and try and save them. There's no escorting.
But that was key to sort of driving you to go and do stuff. Like in the middle of doing something, you'd go, oh shit, I better run over and... Yeah.
There's a lot of keys to the game that they've taken away. And there's no escorting anymore. You know, you just save someone and they go, oh thanks, drop a weapon and piss off. And they can literally die next to you and it doesn't matter.
Game
Well, you got the weapon,
design.
dude. Like,
Yeah. It's just horrible. It's just horrible. Anyway. Ben, what did you have?
I didn't want to put this here because I'm one of the small people, not small people, I'm one of the small minorities of people that like this game. And that was Star Fox Zero. I think was disappointing. I actually like the gameplay. I think you have to think of it differently to a normal game. It's kind of like piloting a remote control car, and the fun is in learning those controls rather than those controls being intuitive out of the box. But that aside, the reason it was really disappointing is because it's just exactly the same story as Star Fox 64, but they slightly altered different routes and tweaked
I
some
heard
parts
that.
of the story.
It's like a major
Yeah.
remake, but it's not labeled as a remake, really, is it?
And given how much of a dead time there was between the last Star Fox game and this one, and how pathetic the last one was, Assault, which no one ever played because it was
Never
awful.
heard of it.
And then
I
the
thought
one before that
64
was
the last one.
the after 64 was Star Fox Legends, which was the dinosaur one, which was made by Rare and is really just the Legend of Zelda, but you play a Star Fox on a dinosaur planet, which I really like because it's on a dinosaur planet and
What
it's a Zelda game.
platform was that?
But that was GameCube. It's worth going and checking out. It's a reading about the history is really interesting.
I never had a
because it was a
GameCube.
64 game originally.
I've
Well, hold
missed
out
all
for the
of
Switch
these.
GameCube compatibility.
Yeah, okay, alright.
But they won't be able to release it though because Microsoft probably owns the rights to that. I don't know. Anyway, my point is, yeah, like I feel like Nintendo maybe Miyamoto was like, oh, let's make a Star Fox game, and they didn't really have anyone around the office who wanted to make it, and so they offloaded it to Platinum Games. Platinum did what they always do, make some pretty cool visuals and some dynamic gameplay, but didn't really bother with the story, and I don't know, maybe the interns were working that day, but they didn't put a lot of effort into it, and also maybe that was because they knew the Wii U was not succeeding. It got delayed a couple of times, and it just wasn't really worth it in the end. It was good value because it came with a second game for free, and I got 3 cases with this one release of the game, or 2 cases. I got 3 cases with this game. So I wasn't disappointed
the
with my
display
purchase.
case you're
it's
not meant
just...
to take, Ben.
An
That's
anti-
meant to
is
stay on
that-
the shelf.
You're
Yeah.
supposed to hand that back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Dickhead.
Dave,
Well, it's. Oh, okay.
Ben can keep talking because I don't have one.
okay.
All right. Well, it's just disappointing, even for Dave. This game is that disappointing. It needed more levels. It needed. Yeah. I hope Star Fox comes back in a better shape in the future.
See, now that's going to be the hard thing because they tried it, they failed, and I guess from a company standpoint, it doesn't
Meh.
look good for doing something else. But
You know
They're
what?
gonna
You know
keep
what?
doing it.
What
they
format
made
I think
more
Star Fox
Metroid
would work
after
in?
Other M.
what?
Yeah, that's true. I think Star Fox would work really well if Nintendo decided to go down like the arena shooter kind of route. If they did kind of like an Overwatch thing, you have all the different animal characters and the different classes, and I don't know, maybe there's some vehicle combat in the arena, but maybe take them out of the ships. I think maybe the rail shooter, space shooter.
Can they stand as characters on their own though?
I think they could. I think
But then it's
definitely
not
if
Star
you.
Fox anymore, dude.
This is
Then
why
you
No,
I'm
yes, it
talking-
is.
changing what makes it unique.
This is way off.
No,
topic.
But I think Nintendo's strength has always been in pushing the IP and evolving the IP
Yeah,
to
because
match
they've
the
evolved
platform.
Mario so much over the past 30 years.
No, if you
40
look at
years.
Mario 64 from the original Mario Brothers, that is what they
It's the
excel
same
at. If
thing.
you
It's
look
just
at...
that you
Yeah,
don't
what if
move
they
left
don't-
and
No,
right.
no, it's not though. 3D, the third dimension changed everything.
No,
and that's
no,
what I'm
they
saying.
nailed the third dimension,
Yeah.
and they recreated it in Sunshine, even though I didn't really like it, and Galaxy. But then they've gone back. They haven't done anything with it since. That's one of their franchises. Zelda was another one. They,
Zelda's one that
Ocarina of
they
Time, they
keep
did it well.
pushing. Yeah, and in Breath of the Wild is going back to the basics of the first Zelda game and using modern day open world and seamless gameplay, bring that exploration feature to life. And that's what I'm saying. With Star Fox, I think they need to sit down and decide, what do we actually like about Star Fox? Is it the characters? Is it the universe? Or is it the ship gameplay? And then rebuild from the ground up, rather than just copy paste the ship gameplay from.
I agree, but I think it'd be a mistake to ditch the ship gameplay because that's what makes it a different game from the rest. The
Why don't they
characters
just
are.
make Star Wars Battlefront but Star Fox? There, problem
That's
solved.
kind of what
Moving
I'm
on.
saying. Yeah.
Moving on.
All right.
Because Star Wars Battlefront doesn't have any players.
Because it has no features, because they cut everything from this last game.
No, but
I
don't
enjoyed
worry.
it, but I
they're
got
putting
sick
it
of
into
spending
number
10
2.
minutes waiting.
Everything
okay.
that they should have had in number 1, they're putting in number 2. So don't worry.
Oh, I'll
about
keep
us.
buying
you
their
just have to
products
buy.
again.
You just have
Yeah.
to buy another version.
That sounds
Um,
fair.
So best new mechanic / gameplay element. I'm gonna go last.
All right, I'll go first then because I didn't have a worse sequel. Thanks for asking. Best new mechanic for me was it was a tough one because so many games have new mechanics or something I see as a new mechanic, but they're not really new mechanics. Like Darkest Dungeon had the stress thing, but that's not necessarily something new, but it's something they implemented.
Maybe we'll say
Perfectly.
new to you then.
So for me, this one went to Overwatch because I really, really liked. Actually, just a quick question: when did Heroes of the Storm come out?
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, like
It
2
was a
years
couple
ago.
of years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. One of the things I really liked that Overwatch did was when you die,
First objective.
you have the mechanic where you're able to choose a new character. So you can evolve the strategy that your team is playing with on the fly in response to how the enemy are playing. So if they've got a particularly strong force against the way you've rigged yourself up, and
do
you've
that
got a
in Team
team that
Fortress.
knows all the characters, which was the hardest thing for me because you have to know all the various strengths and weaknesses of each. And we'll get to this later with the game of the year bit, but obviously this is my game of the year. The
You're a bad
variety,
person. Why did I ask you on his?
the variety in the characters and the way you play them, and each one is particularly strong against a few of the others and weak against others. It really encouraged this mechanic of when you die, looking at what your team have, who you will be, and how you can best work as a team to achieve your objectives. And I thought they did that just perfectly. It's like when I took a while to get into Overwatch because I heard it was basically Team Fortress, but it's better than Team Fortress. It's the same base concept, but they've added all these mechanics, complexities, and character variety
But you
that just
can't
make it
unlock
a
hats.
really unique game. Sorry?
You can't unlock hats in Overwatch.
You can unlock skins though, loot boxes.
Skins aren't as good as
Yeah,
hats.
fucking loot boxes. But anyway, so that was my mechanic. The whole when you die, being able to pick a new character, I thought that was an excellent mechanic. I think you used to be able to do it in stuff like some of the earlier Battlefield games, couldn't you? You could flick from a medic to a soldier to a...
You do it in all the Battlefield games. You're not
Yeah.
locked to your class
But-
the whole thing. When you die,
Yeah.
on the respawn menu, you can change everything. You can change your class and your loadout.
Yeah, but the reason I like it so much in Overwatch is because you're a team of, what, 5, 6?
Yeah.
You're in
Every
a small
role
team
counts.
anyway, and each role is very clearly labelled as healer, tank, damage, and what's the fourth one?
Offense,
That's it.
defense,
Support,
tank,
support
and
tank,
support.
and
Yeah,
I think, isn't it?
you know what I mean. They've very clearly outlined how each class is supposed to be played, and they're very, very geared towards that sort of role. They really gave you the tools to take advantage of that mechanic. They haven't just thrown in a good mechanic. They've given the players the means to use that mechanic and use it well to good effect. Reward you for knowing the characters. So that's my best new mechanic. Ben?
The best mechanic I liked, controversially to what I said before, was from Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, shit.
The one thing I thought Square Enix did and was cutting edge was
Chocobo Racing.
Yeah, Chocobo Surfbridge. What I liked, no, not the car, because it was on rails. I liked the dynamic nature of the party AI. Even though there are instances where the audio is a bit wacky and repetitive, I really like that characters can come up to the main character. Yeah, can come up to the main character just in the middle of battle and be like, "Hey, buddy, you doing all right? And can we just talk about our feelings for a bit?" And that sounds lame, but I hate
terrible. That's never happened to me. What are
really?
you talking about?
No, but like I don't know, like it's that stuff. Or in the middle of battle, when you do a combo move, you're calling your party members. They'll stop their fight, come over to you. You'll do a cool high five, flip, and use each other to keep fighting, and that's very seamless in the combat. They'll call out to each other. I like the way that Prompto takes photos at the end of battle without your prompting, despite his name. And just little touches of immersion of NPCs. We're at a stage of gaming where we can start to use it in ways that are unconventional and are outside of the box. And I'd really like to see more games that focus on a tight party of characters you move around with, where the AI is really interacting with you in the environment. To a certain extent, Uncharted 4 did this as well, with whichever character was accompanying you in the level. You would banter and climb and work together.
Points.
Yeah, and I think it's not my favorite thing. I think I prefer games where you work cooperatively with another player. But for a single player experience, when the NPC does something genius and is used really creatively, I really appreciate that. And I hope that's kind of where open world games go, because it's one thing to explore a world by yourself, but if you can make a group of travelers that go with you and feel like they're part of the world as well, I think that makes open worlds feel a lot more fun rather than just an empty sandbox.
Well, they actually used it quite well in terms of communicating some stuff that the HUD, you may not have noticed in the HUD as well. Because like I was playing in a fight last night, and then Gladius called out something like, "Hey, Noct, we're not just," he said, I can't exactly remember what he said, but he basically said that they're not meant to be fighting, they're all fighting by themselves here. How about giving us some direction? Indicating that, hey, all the meters are charged. You can call on guys to join you and do a big combo move, or, go around the back and do this and all that sort of stuff.
Or if you pull into a petrol station, he'll remind you need to pick up some more recovering items, more potions.
See, that's one of the things that bugs me about it. So they remind me of that all the time, even when I'm full on curatives. And then last night I went to this city that Gladius wants you to go to, and I spoke with this NPC that he wanted to speak to. And we did that quest, and then we got given another quest out of the city. But I went off in a different way, and I did these other side quests. And then after one of the side quests, he came up to me and took me aside and said, "Hey, are we going to go to this city and speak to NPC that we've already spoken to? She'll really be waiting for us now." And he was getting real shitty with me for not doing something I'd already done. Or when I'm in the car and Pronto is saying, "Hey, bit of weather, how about we put the top up?" or something like that. But the top of the car is already up. I found quite a few times that what you like about the game actually broke it for me, because when it didn't work, it was so blaringly obvious.
The lack of polish I'm going to put down to the fact the game is unfinished, and they had to rush and meet a deadline. What I'm saying is,
again,
you've
spent an hour talking about Final Fantasy.
No, I spent an hour talking. I spent a long time talking about a game you don't give a crap about.
That's which often happens on this show.
And if I'm getting bored, the listeners are getting bored.
Possibly. If you're getting bored, please like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, I'd like to see that mechanic continued. To use AI in an open world in intelligent ways, and
some games are doing it well. There's a bit of banter at the start of HOTS, depending on the characters that you pick.
That's
they'll
true.
interact with each other. It's not fluent throughout the game. I think it's more just, well, I've only
Just
noticed it at the start.
yeah.
But yeah, that's a feature that's becoming apparent. It would be good if it wasn't static. Like, from what Dave's saying, it sounds like it's a... Rain has started, this person say the line about the car, or, you know, you've reached petrol
And
station.
it's always that one person,
Yeah.
and it's always the same response.
It's
yeah.
not a dynamic thing. It's a, you've reached this point, say this dialogue. It'd be good to
Yeah.
see some smarts behind it. But
Well,
at the
sometimes he
start-
doesn't say anything.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah,
You guys
I
start?
guess I can see what you're saying, Ben. It does feel unfinished because I've only. It feels like instead of recording, say, 10 lines of dialogue, and then setting them at random, but that's not something that should be unfinished. That's something they should have done when they were just recording the dialogue, right?
Yeah. But
And you can't
I mean,
slam on the brakes and cause all those fuckers not wearing their seatbelts to crash through the screen. That's a big,
big problem.
very side problem. Did you see that the Audi have built that car?
Really?
Yeah, $475,000 and you can actually own that
Dollar.
car. Yeah,
Can we
Delgado.
add
Did they build my version, the one that I customized and shoved Moogle stickers all over?
I can customize it. I haven't got that far.
Yeah, you can customize the car. You change the color, you put stickers on it.
Oh, no, I didn't do that yet.
So it's not an
My
emo
favorite thing
reveal
about the
whole
game.
time.
No, mine was beautiful royal blue color, had
There you go.
chocobos and a cactuar on the back. So when I ran over something, the last thing they saw was a cactuar running away.
Anyway, for my pick,
What are we on?
best
Mechanic.
new mechanic or
That's
gameplay
right.
element.
Oh, the
So-
best new mechanic was Sid from Final Fantasy 15. She helped build my car a couple of times.
He, not she.
Hey, no, the girl one, Sydney. What? Cindy. She changed
the,
her name
the
mid-development.
daughter that's in hot shorts and a push-up bra.
No,
and-
she was awful. Anyway, continue, Tim. What was your favorite game mechanic?
So mine was from Overcooked. I don't know how new or groundbreaking it is, but the way, I mean, it starts out pretty simple, but the way that the each environment is a puzzle in itself. So you'll start out in a kitchen with there's no obstructions. You're given ingredients. You're given meals to make. I think at first it's onion soup, and then it just gets harder and harder and harder. But I like the co-op mechanics of it, of trying to figure out, and it changes every level, who does what role. So who's on grabbing ingredients, who's on chopping, who's on cooking, who's on grabbing the dishes and serving the meals and all that sort of stuff. And depending on the environment and how the level is and what your obstructions are, that changes. And even in the levels, it changes itself. So there's one pirate ship that tilts back and forwards, which moves the benches, which changes everybody's roles on the fly.
It's awesome.
It's really, it's actually a really good game and a lot harder than we thought. So that was a pleasant surprise. I don't know if they're brand spanking new gameplay elements, but they're the newest thing that I've encountered this year. And I wanted to give a shout out to Overcooked because it's pretty cool. Game of the year. So we're gonna skip Dave because he's wrong. You may as well have been on the other video game awards where they gave Overwatch Game of the Year.
But didn't they? I thought they gave it to the
Nah.
Witcher 3 expansion.
No, that was one of the categories. You only listened to part of the podcast.
I've only listened to like 10 minutes so far.
Well, then
It's not worth watching the whole thing.
Well, I wouldn't
the
watch it. It's an
podcast.
audio podcast.
He's talking about the podcast. He didn't watch.
No,
the
I
awards.
listened to another dungeon for my news on the podcast,
Yeah.
on the video
Oh, you
awards,
know
not
what?
the actual award.
Oh, right.
I'll go first because mine's not going to be surprising to anyone, I don't think. My game of the year goes to Dark Souls 3.
Surprise, surprise.
We have lost.
Pretty surprising. Not that it's got, that much different to the other Dark Souls games. I guess it's a game that I keep going back to. I've finished a couple times. I keep making new characters and trying different things.
That's just because you've got the Let's Play video.
No, I've even created more characters outside of that, just to draw different styles. I'm not one to usually go back and replay games, so for a game to make me even want to play it a second time is pretty good effort.
It's a fair
So,
effort.
for me personally, Dark Souls 3, and the longer it's been out, the more lore videos get made, so the more of the story I actually understand.
It is a bit like that, isn't it? I found that with 2. I found more out about the story externally than I did actually. And actually, it's the same with World of Warcraft. I'm finding more by reading the novels than I am by the shithouse way they... Oh, all right, Dark Souls isn't shithouse, but World of Warcraft is shithouse in the way it tells the story.
So everything is technically available in-game if you connect the dots and read every item description and pay attention to what's where in a level. You can kind of put pieces of the story together that way, and that's all the guys on the lore videos do, really, but they do a good job of it. So
Well, just before 3 came out, the director was like, "I'll give you like $10,000 if you can tell me the story in the right order."
Yeah, good storytelling. Reward someone who can figure out the story you're trying to tell. Dickhead.
Ben, what was your game of the year?
My game of the year, I think I have to give it to Uncharted 4: Thief's End.
Ooh,
oh, wow.
Okay.
The only
Thought it was
flaw
gonna
I think
be
it has is
Pokemon
that
for
it's
sure.
it's too short. No, this is not my favorite Pokemon, unfortunately, because of its lack of post game. But Uncharted 4, I just think was the most mature thing this year. I think it really evolved the Uncharted mechanics. There are quite open segments, and you do a lot of interesting gameplay with the climbing mechanic. It's not just like the first 3, and very much the first one is just hide behind a cover and shoot. But this had a lot of ways to play around with
the
enemies.
hook thing.
Yeah, the hook thing, and it was simple but effective. And it's the storytelling, the lush environments, like the trees and foliage. At one point, I was on this little island up a Gallagher thing, and it was beautiful just sailing around. And yeah, I really feel like it was the only game that tried this year. 2015 was really good for games that pushed the industry, but 2016, I feel like everyone kind of lost focus. But Uncharted 4, I think, really nailed where gaming is at. It's the benchmark for what we've achieved in games, and I look forward to what Naughty Dog do with Last of Us 2.
Yeah, same here.
So we're going to end this on a disappointment. So Dave, what's your game of the year?
That's obviously Overwatch. Just because I thought they took a genre, as Blizzard tend to do now. They take something that exists. Heroes of the Storm, they've now admitted is a MOBA. But they've added elements that take something,
They take
remove
other
the
games
bits.
and they pander to their fanboys.
I disagree. I think
Do you know about Paladins?
Yeah.
Well,
Paladins is in production before Overwatch, and they're all lined up to be the first of this kind of MOBA arena shooter thing. And then Blizzard announced Overwatch. The Paladin crew were like, "Oh crap! Now no one's gonna play our game."
oh
They,
shit.
they do it right because they're free to play, but
Yeah.
Overwatch definitely
Yeah.
towers above.
Yeah, but
them. Same with
Overwatch
I
is
guess
like-
Battleborn, which Tim erroneously picked
Oh, yeah.
first.
Battleborn, yeah. But Overwatch I saw in JB is like $45 a pop now. Like that's
Objective
Yeah.
that's
Still
slow enough to
expensive.
impulse buy.
Mm.
But yeah. Can I just do a quick things I didn't play?
Sure.
No, because that'll be way too long.
No,
I thought
I'm
we were
gonna
gonna
read
keep it to 3.
I'm gonna read
Things-
it quick. No. Yeah, how about I
Games-
just read what I don't have to, it's your podcast. Fine.
Ben, do you have 3 games you didn't play that you wish you did?
I just got one that I wish I had played. I don't know if this came out this year or just was improved this year. I think it came out a couple years ago, but I kind of really want to play Rainbow Six, but I don't really know how to get into that scene or have
Siege.
enough people to play it with. Yeah, the new one. I hear that it's been improved to a point where it's quite good multiplayer. And I'm
is.
curious to playing that mechanic, but I just don't know enough people that play it.
I play it.
Or maybe
Um,
I'll think about getting the starter pack or something.
It is good. Yeah, don't... I don't know.
I feel like it would be better like a LAN kind of environment, and I don't know.
Yeah, teamwork is important in it, and if you're not on a team of people that talk, which is generally the case, it's not as good. So you just have one, only one
Well,
for the year.
The only other game I want to play so I can know for sure how bad it is the Metroid Freedom Federation Force. But I didn't even have the heart to buy that out of pity. It was so missed the mark of what the fans love about Metroid, and especially after Other M was very disappointing.
I loved Other M.
And it was one of my favorite like second party Nintendo companies that made that, and I thought they had done excellent work because they had done Luigi's Mansion 2 and they had done the crazy Mario Soccer game that's really a wrestling game that got reskinned into a soccer game.
Oh, Striker's Charge.
Yeah,
That was the best
yeah.
one
How
ever.
good is that game?
I love it.
love that game so much.
My games that I wish I'd played this year, Attack on Titan. I was a bit skeptical, but I've watched some gameplay on it. It actually looks pretty good. Pretty close-ish, I guess, to what the anime is. Planet Coaster. I really liked Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 back in the day. Planet Coaster looks like a pretty good continuation, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, game in the same genre. So I'm keen to pick that up, hopefully in sales over Christmas. The only other one, Doom. For some reason I skipped over Doom, and it doesn't seem to have done as well as they were hoping, because I see it on sale a lot now.
Faded away.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hear people love that one.
Yeah. I don't know, there's been complaints.
I think Bethesda just dropped the ball on the promo, to be honest.
I don't know what it is. There were...
Because the hype died out before it was released, about a
Yeah,
few months
okay.
before. It just died out, and then it sort of snuck in, and then it was out, and people were like, oh yeah, Doom came out, except for a few people that were dead keen on it, you
Yeah.
know?
I think there were complaints about the multiplayer being too Halo-esque or COD-esque, but
I didn't even know it had multiplayer.
yeah.
Of course it
does.
has to play.
Alright, if you want to tune out, Dave is going to go through his really long list of games that he wished he'd played.
I'm still going to be shorter than you bastards.
Nobody blames you.
Well, the reason I'm doing this list like this is because I didn't play that many games, and the list of games I did play is actually as long as the list of what I didn't. So the ones that I didn't play was the new Kirby, Mirror's Edge Cataclysm, Paper Mario, Dark Souls 3, Rise of Tomb Raider, Mario and Luigi Paper Jam, No Man's Sky, Forza Horizon 3, Paper Mario Color Splash, Gears of War 4, Tyranny, Dishonored 2, Doom, Rainbow Six Siege, and Battlefield. Told you it was quick.
Rise of the Tomb Raider is good. You should play it. And it's
It's
cheap.
okay.
I hated the one before it
Ah, why?
because of the story bits. What do you call it? The narrative, the dissonant. What the hell is it called? Where the
yeah,
where the
I know what you
story
mean.
is completely fucking at odds with what you then do. It's
You'll
like,
come to a
this is
cutscene.
happening. Quick, you've got to
Yeah.
get here, and then you go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go fuck off over there and explore this tomb
Yeah.
for half an hour first.
Yeah.
I remember
Narrative
your
dissonance,
example.
that's what-
Your example you
I
said
felt-
last time was specifically one of the cutscenes where she kills someone and then throws up, even though you've killed like 20 guys
Oh,
before
yeah,
that,
that's
and has
right.
no problem with it.
That's
Yeah.
right. I did that in the review with Andy.
Disconnect.
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, she's meant to be this big emotional thing about she's just killed someone. You're like, well, yeah, just
I-
killed
I
90
find-
people.
The problem with that reboot is the gameplay is often quite interesting, but the story takes itself too seriously. I
Yeah,
actually
I
think
think that's
Tomb
it.
Raider should lighten up because Uncharted works because even though he kills a bunch of like a billion people, like Nathan Drake is the biggest serial killer ever. It's really lighthearted. It has that Indiana Jones flair of adventure, and that's what's fun about exploring and being ridiculous. But Tomb Raider is so over the top, but like at the same time, she's like freaking out. Like I don't know, this is the worst. This like it needs to just chill out and then let me enjoy shooting arrow ropes and swinging on things.
So they've got it back to front in games like in TV shows like Mad Men and Breaking Bad and shows like not Indiana Jones, but as you said with
Young
Uncharted,
Indiana Jones.
with River Phoenix. Oh no, it
Yep.
was some other dude. Anyway, with those shows, they make a likable bad guy. So they're doing horrible things, but at the same time, they're a likable character. Whereas in Tomb Raider, they're doing horrible things, but they're trying to make the character be this relatable,
young,
down to earth,
attractive Mary Sue girl that's misunderstood, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, we're off topic. Thank you for listening
Anyway, I
to
still want to
the.
play the game.
Yes, you should. It's good. I enjoyed it. Thank you for listening
Go
to
with
the
your
last
I won't interrupt you again.
podcast
Promise.
of 2016. We've had a pretty good year. We enjoyed doing it.
It's been fun.
It's been fun. Dave's abandoned us, but that's okay. We moved on.
We
we
rebuilt
are.
and we got funnier.
We got funnier by the day. We are a Podbros exclusive. We are on Whooshka. We are at Another Dungeon on Twitter. We are anotherdungeon.com for news, reviews, podcasts, other stuff. We are anotherdungeon.com/YouTube to get a redirect to our YouTube page because we still don't have it directly for some reason. We
Google
are
are wankers.
because Google are wankers. You heard it here first.
Fact.
Facebook.com/anotherdungeon.
Podcast at anotherdungeon.com.
What's that?
That's an email address, Tim. Don't become one of these motherfuckers that rings me up and go, "Oh, is that with any spaces?" Drives
How
me
do you
nuts.
spell podcast? Is it the normal way?
Mm-hmm.
How will they know which podcast they're emailing? Yours or mine?
Trust me, I don't get that much email. I can't sort out
It's
one.
so
from
hard.
the other.
It's so hard to filter. Anyway, thank you guys. We'll be taking a short break over Christmas. There'll be dribs and drabs of content as I decide if I want to record myself playing games over the holidays or not. But yeah, thank you for the year and join us again in 2017 for hopefully...
When we'll be back with Nintendo Switch news.
Oh yeah, 13th. There's a launch thing, isn't
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, that's when we'll be back most likely because
Ben-
I'll force us back.
Yeah. Well, there'll be a special episode.
This is
just
my
for-
second Christmas.
Alright, thanks for listening,
A
everyone.
disappointing Christmas. Where you realise none of the promises are met.
Unfortunately, the Wii U will not be available at launch.
See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And stop.
Thank you for inviting me to the last episode.
It was good to have you.